Hello. It's nice to see y'all again. It's been a few weeks since I talked. I had the Septi videos and I took those down because Septi was literally just being paranoid, and I'm not gonna be that cunt who's just like, you know what, I'm not gonna honor your request and I'm just gonna leave them up. Like, I may not like Septi, but I'm not going to draw too much attention to them. Besides, letting you guys know why the videos went down. But today I want to talk about Inheritance. So, when my father killed himself, partly due to the reason he believed that I was not his child, and later it was found out I am indeed his child, so he clearly killed himself for nothing, they held a benefit dance, and they raised enough that each of his 4 children were to receive $1,800. This was back in 1999. I was meant to receive my share when I was 18. I had only learned about this in November of 2025. I want to see if my eyes move. Oh, they do. Oh, that's cool. You can see where I'm looking. But anyways, time goes by, and eventually I ask my grandmother about it in December of 2025. And she comes up with this elaborate story of how it's all Natasha's fault, my sister Natasha, why I didn't get the money. It's been long enough, I don't remember her exact words or her exact reasoning. And eventually, after going, a little back and forth, it's amicable and we're not being too rude, she gets my aunt on the phone. And my aunt's like, oh yeah, what happened? Your Aunt Lisa, what? And I'm sorry, I'm gonna use actual names in this. People already know who I am. I've had people stalk my Facebook. I really don't care at this point because I know that the people who want to know will figure out all the information that they want to know. And they said, yeah, your Aunt Lisa, she was saving that up for you. And she was gonna give it to you. Don't worry. I know it's been 8 years since it was meant to go to you, but don't worry. She was definitely going to give it to you. And she said that my sister Christina had asked my Aunt Lisa for $1,500 to borrow, and my Aunt Lisa pulled out an extra $300 and said, "It's your inheritance. Here, have it." And so my sister Christina got her inheritance, that way. And that's all fine and dandy, but apparently then Christina was complaining about not getting her inheritance, and my siblings were complaining about not getting theirs. And the long story short is that my sister Christina was apparently given an extra $1,800, which would have been my inheritance. My sister Natasha got her $1,800, and Brandon got his $1,800, and I was left out, but I'm the black sheep of the family on the monk side. I always have been. I always will be. Whenever there's family drama, I'm usually, they're usually chill with me, but they always bring up my dad, and they're like, oh, well, this person A said that your dad's not really your dad. You're not a part of this fucking family. Can you believe that? And I go to person A, and I ask, and then they're like, actually, person B said this. And I go to person B, and they're like, actually, person C. And it's been like that for years, and what that's telling me is that behind my back for years they're still complaining, and they're still talking about my dad, and they're still putting me down and saying that I'm not his child behind the scenes, but they don't say it to my face. The only one who ever did say it to my face, albeit it was in a joking way, I will say that, was my Aunt Pinky, and that still pisses me off to this day. There are rumors throughout the monk side of the family that both Mike and Ian are my actual father, and that's been fun to live through. I was treated like shit by the majority of them besides my grandmother until I was at least 12, because deep down they blame me for my father's death. And I get it, in his note he wrote he loved me, and he talked about how I was not actually his son. And it was he had very conflicting feelings on me before I was even born. But I want to kind of reveal one little fun fact that I also learned a few years ago, and I've just kept my mouth shut on because, this is something I've held on to not stir up family drama, but I feel if I'm going public with this because I feel I've genuinely been wronged at this point. When my father, his body was found, he tried to previously lure my mother to where they found his body. And I don't know if people can do math. He tries to lure my mother to where they find his body. He used to beat the senseless shit out of her. He even hit my grandmother a few times. My grandma fought back, though. My mother only fought back once. And when she did, my dad complained about it, made bitch and moan fest. So, you know, I'm just saying what happened. He never hit my grandpa, though, to my knowledge. My grandpa was like a 400-pound man and would have killed him. And so with his physical violence towards my mother, at least in the last 4 months of their relationship, and then trying to lure her pregnantly to where they found his body, and him believing that I'm not his child. Well, he actually flip-flopped on that a lot. Sometimes he thought I was, sometimes he thought I wasn't, but for the grand scheme of things, deep down, he didn't think I was his kid. He thought that my mother was cheating on him with Mike and Ian, and that's held up to this day, where some people believe that, despite the fact I'm a spitting image of my father. I personally believe he was going to try to kill my mother that day, and then kill himself while she was still pregnant with me. And I've known this for many years, and I've just kept quiet about it. Because everybody sees him as this great man, and I don't doubt that he was a great man. You know, he was very charitable. He would give the homeless any of his money. He would help out around town. He would help his friends and family whenever he could. It was just when he started drinking that he became a problem. And he drank because of his own issues with his father and his own mental health issues. And they didn't speak about mental health back then. They didn't. And given the amount of mental health issues that I have, it's safe to say that my father probably had the same exact ones. Because my sister Natasha has the same exact ones. Because my sister Christina has many of the same mental problems as well. I don't know about my brother Brandon, but when you figure that at least 3 of his 4 children carry the same mental disabilities and handicaps that he did, well, I shouldn't say he did, I don't know besides the bipolar what he had. But when 3 of the 4 children all share very similar mental health issues, it's a pretty good indicator that he had those. So I can't blame him fully at the same time. I believe if he had proper help, he would have never hit my mom. He never would have killed himself. But, you know, I'm starting to ramble. I'm getting a little off track. And, yeah, it's a messy situation. But, anyways, we fast forward to the last time I bring it up, which is in January of 2026. I bring it up to my grandmother, and she says, you know, my Aunt Lisa will be there really soon. And so I'm like, all right, this is great. I can actually talk about this, maybe get the inheritance, and, you know, have, I don't know, like stability. Not worry about not being able to eat and actually have some food for a while. That would be really nice. Now, I was in a really bad spot at the time, my friends know. Barely affording rent, barely affording internet, and after that, no money for food. I went from 252 pounds at the beginning of this year all the way down to 208, where I've kind of stagnated, but in a weird way, I'm glad I didn't get the inheritance when I did and spend it on food, because like I've gotten used to eating less. I'm not getting as hungry when I eat less, and I think that's actually a really good thing. I know it's weird to say I'm glad I didn't get it for that one reason, but I'm at the point now where I do require it. For those who don't know, I have been given a myriad of physical health issues and mental health issues. My heart rate will even spike to 183 while I'm lying down, which is in the peak zone, which is the highest that you can get. So that's bad. That's past vigorous. And vigorous even then, or even, like an elevated heart rate even of like 120 laying down is really, really bad. So one of those is type 2 diabetes. I don't have the money for my medication. I don't have the money to afford my metformin. I don't have the money to afford Ozempic. Now, I'm not on Ozempic yet, but I've talked to pharmacists and the doctor, and it can cost me each month anywhere from $104 to $908 per treatment. And I'm just hoping it's the $104 option, because it's not going to be fully covered. And I know with the amount of money that I make right now, I can't afford that. That's a pipe dream. And with my heart the way it is, with all the elevation and the high blood pressure to where it's like 180 over 116, which is hypertensive crisis, which can kill you, by the way, when it's that high. I'm not exactly able to work, and the working out that I do has lessened considerably. I started working out again like I used to, and I started at like 4 hours a day, and everything was fine. But over time, I've had to lower it to like 20 minutes a day because my body just literally cannot handle anything else. I'm throwing up blood again. It's not fun. I even threw it up at the Bannock Shack. I showed it in a different video, the video of throwing up blood at the Bannock Shack, which was, I showed the aftermath of it, not the actual throwing up. Because like obviously I'm not going to be able to go, I'm throwing up blood, let's open my phone, type in my passcode, open my camera app, wait for it to buffer, hold the video button, and then hit record. And it's like, no, that takes too long. That takes like 20 seconds to set up. But anyways, when I talked to my nan, she said that, your Aunt Lisa's going to be here. So I go to there on the date that my nan said my Aunt Lisa would be there. And she said, you missed your Aunt Lisa. She was here a few days ago. Despite the fact on Facebook, she said she would tell me if my Aunt Lisa got there early or late or whenever, so I could go down and talk to her, and she never did. Now, obviously, my grandmother, she's in her 70s. Maybe she forgot, or maybe Lisa asked her not to, or I don't know what her reasoning is. It could simply be that she forgot. I'm not going to hate on my nan, because throughout all of history, her and her son Chris have been the only two to treat me with proper respect from the time I was born until this very day. They've been the only two to show me that they don't care if other people don't think I'm my dad's kid. They know I'm my dad's kid. They know Donald Blunk is my father. But then in January, when I asked Nan about it, when she told me, she said, don't worry, Aunt Lisa said that she'll have it to you by June. So I was silent. I waited until June, and June came and passed, and I thought, okay, maybe it might take an extra month. Maybe there's something iffy. And then came July, and in July, my sister Natasha went to Shoppers Drug Mart where my mother works. And my mother brought up the fact that I still didn't have the inheritance money, and I asked my nan about this. Maybe it was either June or July. I'm like, hey, when's it coming in? She's like, well, technically it's not inheritance money. It's not technically yours. And I'm like, oh, that's how it is. That's nice. And that was in a Facebook chat. And then during this time, I'd also learned that I was owed an extra $2,100, but that one I don't care about. I just care about the actual inheritance, the $1,800. That's the one that I'm personally kind of a little iffy on. And I wish that Lily didn't remove her drama chat. Or maybe it was her vent chat, because back in the day I was actually giving like proper like details and updates, most of which I've forgotten about, and I didn't save them, and I was just talking to Lily on Discord. So yeah, to know the full story, I'd have to use my brain, and the amount of concussions I've had, I'm not remembering everything. But anyways, my sister Natasha and my mother get to talking, and my mother tells them about how months ago, all the way back to December, they told me that my 1800 had gone to my sister Christina, and my sister Natasha's like, yeah, no, that's bullshit. They tried to tell me the same thing too when I talked to her about it. So my sister Natasha talked to my Aunt Lisa about the inheritance, and my Aunt Lisa said the same thing and said, well, it'd be coming out of my pocket. And I guess it was found out through Natasha, like doing some investigating, that while Christina did get her 1800, she never got my 1800 like Lisa said. And my Nan and my Aunt Lisa have said, well, it's going to come out of my pocket, you know, it's not fair to me. But my whole thing is, if you got $1,800, you were told to hold on to it, how is it coming out of your pocket? Like, that says to me that you spent the money. And if you did just spend the money, just say you spent the money, and I'll be like, okay, you don't have to give it to me if you literally don't have it. Like, I'm not going to press you any further. Just don't lie to me about it. Like, I don't like being lied to. I don't like being, you know, strewn around. And the only reason that I'm coming, you know, forward about this now is because I genuinely need it for my medication. You know, I don't want to lose my feet. I've been losing feeling in my left foot constantly. It's been tingling constantly. It's been hard to walk on lately. Before I was even diagnosed with diabetes, I didn't know what it was. I thought it was just like my foot was just going asleep, and I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna ignore this. No, it's fucking neuropathy. Like, my blood's not getting the flow. Like, if it goes on like this, I might lose my fucking foot. Now, that's obviously not, you know, near. That's probably like 10, 20 years down the line, but I'm kind of making peace now that my left foot's probably gonna go. But yeah, no, basically it just comes down to survival. Like, if I could afford my medications, this video would not exist. In the slightest. It would not exist. I would not give two flying shits. Because as I told my mom back in March, like when I got to talking to her about it, I really don't care if I get that 1800 or not. I really don't care if I get that 2100 or not. And she said, well, that's a good thing because I know your Aunt Lisa and she's not going to give it to you. So don't get your hopes up. But now I do need my hopes up because I need that medication. That's about it. I need to pay for my metformin. I need to pay for my Ozempic. I don't know if I'm going to need to pay for any other diabetic medications, but it's going to financially cripple me. And that's hard because I just got back on my feet financially after months, maybe years of being unable to do anything about it. You know, I had a rest and a reprieve, and I got back on my feet and just... I guess that's how life is.